Just shifting gears a bit, I'm really excited to introduce for an update, the president of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for this year, and my good friend Taneen Rudyk. So just as a quick setup for Taneen's remarks, for those of us, again, because some of us are new, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities is our national advocacy organization. I know most of our cities, I think, or maybe all of them, are members, and as an association, we are a member as well. And the FCM has a brilliant staff, many of them based in Ottawa and across the country. And is governed by a board of 70 plus elected officials from across the country, from communities big and small. As the president of this association, I am one of New Brunswick's 3 board members, along with the president of the Association Francophone and the Union of New Brunswick Municipalities. So we are your 3 elected representatives on the board, and then other members of council could serve on some of FCM's committees as well. And I know Mayor Arnold was on some committees last year, for example. And we do a lot of national advocacy work, and FCM has made tremendous progress. And in fact, the concept for our stakeholder days that we've just had over the last couple of days, in fact, came from seeing FCM's effective stakeholder days that happen each November in Ottawa. So because I've been president on the FCM board now for 4 years, serving alongside Taneen as she's worked her way up the ranks. And I'm actually pleased to share that this year, as our president, Taneen asked me to serve as one of the co-chairs of the National Economic and Social Development Committee, which is very exciting and timely and appropriate, because the work of that committee is very much in the streams of affordable housing affordability, also diversity and inclusion. It's coming from that committee has been the establishment of FCM's Anti-Racism and Equity Committee, which is now doing great work. So it's very timely, and it assures, as we are trying to figure out solutions on the ground and working with the province here, certainly housing has been a top of agenda item in FCM's advocacy work, and has really had an impact as an organization in shaping some of the federal initiatives like the Rapid Housing Initiative. Also in other areas like, of course, our federal infrastructure programs, the Building a Canadian Community Fund, the former gas tax fund. Lots of great work has been done on rural broadband as well. I'm sure Taneen will speak to some of these things. But Taneen, it is my pleasure now to welcome you virtually to New Brunswick. Thank you for being here, and I will turn the floor over to you for our FCM update.
Well, good morning, CNBA, and bonjour à tous. I'm so happy to be with you today virtually, and to be speaking to you from the beautiful Treaty 6 territory here in Alberta. I'm thinking of all of our friends on the East Coast as Hurricane Fiona and her aftermath impact municipalities, and I'm hoping that all of you remain safe. And thank you to your administrative staff and all of those that are taking care of our communities. Well, this is my first opportunity to engage with you all as FCM president, and what a week to do it during the first ever New Brunswick Municipality Week. What a great idea to advocate for our municipal order of government at the federal level and to represent your issues on the national stage. I couldn't be prouder to serve members in this way. Je suis très fière de représenter notre ordre du gouvernement et de chercher à résoudre les questions qui comptent vraiment pour les Canadiens que nous servons, especially at such a crucial time for municipalities. And you are such an important organization representing New Brunswick city centers. For over 30 years, you've been representing cities with one voice. You believe strong cities make a strong province, and you are a united force ensuring the interests of dynamic cities are part of the provincial discourse, evident by the conversation that I just witnessed. And on behalf of FCM's board and team, I extend sincere thanks to CNBA for your steadfast efforts, and to the recently elected Adam Lorden, my friend and yours, for your great work as president. When we gathered in Regina in June, I told delegates that I'm equally comfortable hanging out at a resident's front porch as I am at City Council. I'm as comfortable talking to other parents at my kids' school as I am talking to members of Parliament. And no matter the context, I always bring my authentic self, an imperfect person on a journey of growth and a community builder who's proud to be Canadian. And a big part of why I'm so passionate about FCM is what we can achieve together as a diverse group of people to influence major decisions to affect the ground where we choose to make our homes, just like you at CNBA. And no matter the unique perspectives we bring from home, from l'Acadie to the Bay of Fundy, from the forest to the fisheries, and across communities of all sizes, there are far more things that unite us than divide us. Nos citoyens qui proviennent de nous tous les milieux et de toutes les origines veulent que nous mettions de côté nos différends, que nous nous rangions derrière un leadership rassembleur. Et nous n'avons pas une seconde à perdre. Il a trop à perdre. So it is in that spirit of cooperation that I want to assure you, FCM will be here with our open door policy, and don't ever hesitate to get in touch with me to chat about whatever is on your mind. I'll always do my best to take time to listen. And I know how energizing these conferences can be. FCM had our conference in Regina in June, and I know that some of you were there. And I have to tell you, it's like a family reunion to be back together with more than 2,000 municipal leaders, staff, businesses, and friends. And you all know that feeling. It's been 3 years, almost to the day, since your last in-person gathering. The theme of FCM's 2022 conference was Together for Recovery, and we looked at recovery from every angle, from tackling housing affordability to the future of the federal municipal partnership. And once again, the event drew federal party leaders and political figures, all of whom stated clearly that municipalities are essential to pandemic recovery, and indeed to the overall functioning and well-being of communities across this country. FCM members passed resolutions calling for federal action on 4 timely matters: modernizing and growing the Canada Community Building Fund, the artist formerly known as the Federal Gas Tax Fund, addressing period poverty, implementing Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action 71 to 76 pertaining to residential schools, and improving entry processes for those fleeing conflict in Ukraine and elsewhere. Notre programme comportait plusieurs des mêmes sujets que vous explorez ici, comme les résiliences climatiques, les infrastructures et bien sûr le logement. Je prends donc quelques minutes maintenant pour vous parler de nos dossiers importants. One of the most pressing issues right across Canada is housing affordability, and I know it's a top priority for all of you as well. While the need for housing affordability is not new, the global COVID-19 pandemic has shown us how very precarious Canada's housing situation is. The cost of housing goes up, home ownership prices go up, which means more and more people across this country are renting, and rents are going up. And adds supply chain delays and labor market fluctuation on top of that, and we see major housing construction in jeopardy, including important affordable housing projects. For housing solutions to be sustainable and accessible, we need to ensure that necessary wraparound supports are in place reliably and accessibly. And municipalities don't have a choice but to be bold and creative. And we can't afford to let old arguments get in the way of new ideas. Our constituents want debates over jurisdictions and red tape to stop. So what are we doing? FCM is calling for the cooperation across all orders of government to solve our country's housing crisis, with municipalities at the lead. From zoning to planning to permitting, municipal governments are key to making housing projects happen. And that is true for communities of all sizes. As for climate resiliency, this month, FCM released proposals developed after 18 months of consultation with members just like you to inform the ongoing development of the federal government's national adaptation strategy. Despite previous investments in disaster mitigation and adaptation, communities are nowhere near the funding levels needed to protect our residents from what we know is coming and happening even as we speak. C'est pourquoi le FCM incite les fédérales à investir plus dans les résiliences des infrastructures publiques, les solutions naturelles et les évaluations des risques et vulnérabilités climatiques. We are pressing for climate risks to be factored into all public decision-making and for effective collaboration and climate governance practices. Now on to contract policing and unbudgeted costs from the new RCMP collective agreement. Last month, when FCM called on the federal government to absorb retroactive costs, we generated local media coverage from BC to right here in New Brunswick. Members like you are rightly concerned about the burden being shifted to those who can least afford it, our communities and our residents, especially since municipalities were not at the table for these negotiations. Everyone in this room knows that improving partnerships on public safety across orders of government is the only way to maintain the service levels necessary for community safety and related financial sustainability. When the federal budget came out in spring, it recognized municipalities as an essential partner in solving some of our greatest national challenges. Another significant shift that we've seen in recent months is the increasing federal and provincial recognition of the intersection between housing, transit, infrastructure, and climate change. FCM is hard at work on these discussions to ensure national ambition, like the Canada Community Building Fund, meets the realities on the ground in your communities, from major city infrastructure to supporting the most shovel-ready projects in rural communities. There are major municipal implications in the coming launch of the Public Transit Fund, the sunsetting of the Investing in Canada plan, and the renegotiation of the Canada Community Building Fund. And the federal government is looking to FCM and our members for leadership in this space. I know all of you are particularly interested in what the future holds for the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, or ISIP. The federal government has accelerated the deadline for provinces to fully commit their remaining funding under ISIP to priority projects to March 31st, 2023. Any uncommitted funds after this date will be reallocated to other priorities, and that the federal government will work with provinces to support them in expediting project submissions. The federal government has also extended the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program's construction deadline from October 2027 to October 2033. Work remains to be done, but I want you to know that FCM continues to discuss municipal infrastructure needs post-ISIP with all of our members. And this was a major focus of our Board of Directors meetings in September. We'll be reflecting on what we've heard from our members in our advocacy through the fall to the 2023 budget. And if you have any specific feedback, we encourage you to get in touch. Part of our job is to paint the picture of local realities and use that experience to shape public policy. It is your stories that sits on my heart and in my mind as we do those advocacy pieces. And we all know that nation building means something different to every community. And as always, we will demonstrate how cities and regions are already showing leadership. You are the reason why you need to be at that table. And thank goodness we have such a formidable group in this room to help get this all done. The FCM board and all of my members are committed to working side by side with the Cities of New Brunswick Association on all of this important work ahead of us. Le conseiller de la FCM et moi-même sommes déterminés à collaborer avec la CNB dans les importants travaux à venir. Thank you so much for the work that you do every day on behalf of New Brunswick's 8 cities. Merci pour tout ce que vous faites au nom de 8 cités de Nouveau-Brunswick et de leurs résidents. Thank you so much for having me here. Have a great conference, and thank you for what you do to make the world better right where you live. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks so much again, Taneen, or Madam President, for that update. And I'll look forward to seeing you in Ottawa in a few weeks' time.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. And I hope to hear all of the feedback that you need me to pass along to our colleagues. Have a great conference. Absolutely.
Take care. Okay, well, thank you again to Taneen, and it's always great to get updated on what's happening at the federal level of advocacy as well.